Hey, I heard that y'all might want to watch a video of me teaching, but it's like an hour and a half long, so I'm editing it and putting myself in, talking about things. So this first section you're going to see is my students really struggled with the Articles of Confederation, identifying strengths and weaknesses. So I made a quick PowerPoint, put up the strengths and weaknesses, and had them tell me whether it was a strength or weakness in the chat and why. All right, I got three more. Here we go. Speed round. Strength or weakness. Strength or weakness. Printing money for the articles. Article money. Article money. That's a thing. Article money. Article money. I see those answers. It's a. I love that you're answering now. I love it. All right. So if I can print money, does that make me powerful? If I can make cash,
Yes.
yes. So this is a strength. All right, so I continue that on for another 4 or 5 minutes, and I sing some goofy songs, and now we're going to get into the lesson. So this is how I set it up. Yeah. Okay, let's move on. Let's open our journals. If you were in class on Monday, we learned a lot of good stuff. And if you weren't in class on Monday, the notes are always on Canvas. And they're right here. Cool. And I'm going to put the notes in the chat in case you don't feel like going on Canvas. So my notes are set up with every single page since day one on one Google slide. And that way, in case they've lost their notebook or whatever, they always have access to it. It's on Canvas. I put the link in the chat every class, and that way there's no excuse not to learn. There you go. Notes are in the chat as well. And last time we retaught the Northwest Ordinance because we did I did a really bad job teaching it. And as a result, our exit ticket data was just in the trash. And so one thing that looking at the new exit ticket data, which is much better, I think 70% of us totally understand Northwest ordinances, but maybe 6 people think that the Northwest Ordinance gives us land, and it does not. The Northwest Ordinance does not give new land to the United States. The Northwest Ordinance tells us what we're going to do with land we already have, and we're going to create new states. So for about 5 to 10 minutes, I go over the problems with the Articles of Confederation, linking it to the Constitutional Convention, getting students to really think about the goal, change the government, create a new government, and the reasons behind it. Cool. Then we started talking about what I really want to talk about. Solving the problems with the Articles of Confederation. So this is what pre-AP got through, and if you weren't in pre-AP, we didn't get through all of this, so I'm going to go over again. The problems are in red, the solutions are in green. So if we've got a weak national government, can somebody tell me what we're going to do to solve that?
Make a strong one.
Make a strong one. So we're going to make basically a government that's opposite of the Articles. If the Articles of Confederation could not tax, what is the new Constitution going to be able to do?
They can tax.
They'll be able to tax. And we learned a academic vocabulary word we'll need to learn later on, tariffs. And tariffs are a tax on imports. So just start getting that in your head. It's going to become really important in about December. I personally always forget about TEK 8.16a, the purpose for amending the Constitution, so I thought this was a really good time to put it in there in case I forget to do it later on, and that way at least the students have heard about it in context and they can put those connections together. One of the things you need to know, let me see all of your faces in real life. So pause your writing. Let me see your eyes. All right. One of the things you need to know is why we pass amendments. One of the things you need to know is why we pass amendments. And the reason is for problems that Congress and president cannot solve. So why do we pass amendments? Put it in the chat. To solve problems that the president and Congress cannot solve. Why do we pass amendments? So some examples of really big problems that the president and Congress cannot solve. Slavery. They didn't pass a law that stopped slavery. They passed a constitutional amendment because it's too big of a problem. The president and Congress couldn't solve it. So the next part I took out is me for 2 minutes trying to get the kids to understand the words Constitutional Convention and get them to understand that the name tells them what it's all about. It's a meeting to change the government. And it took a little bit of time, so I cut it out. Constitutional Convention, what is it? Based on the words.
It's a meeting
government meeting.
of the government.
Good. I'll take government meeting, but it's more a meeting about the government. And what's going on at this time? What event just happened that's on your screen that you just have to read the title of? The Shays Rebellion just happened, and then immediately after they're having a meeting about the government. So what is the purpose of the Constitutional Convention of 1787? What are they going to do?
Change the government.
Change the government. That's the purpose. They are going to change the government. Are they going to fight a big bloody war like a revolution, a war to change the government? No. They are going to work together and find compromises that are going to change the government. Then I spend 3 minutes going over the important dates, 1607, 1620, 1776, and 1787. Some students really struggled with it. They're not super paying attention, and so we had to reteach some of that. All right, 1787, they wrote the U.S. Constitution. This is something you need to know. I'm going to highlight it because it's kind of hiding in there. And this is definitely going to be a test question. And I need to make sure that I see 1787 because that's an easy one just to memorize. All right, major question in the Constitutional Convention. Now, this sounds really hard. You're like, what the hell, Mr. Johnson? Please excuse the profanity. It's a major question in Constitutional Convention. I wasn't even there. Right? I know what you're thinking. But you do know this. What was the problem with the Articles of Confederation that they want to change?
It was a weak government.
Good. And who had the power?
The states.
Good job, Harmony and Jacob. So the major question is going to be, who will have the power? The national government or the state government? So I wanted to pre-teach this information so that it was all on one page so that they could reference back to it and just cover it on a surface letter. I asked them a good question. I asked the students, what group of people would the founding fathers consider less than one whole person in order to spark that conversation about the 3/5 compromise? What group of people would the framers of the Constitution think are less than a person?
Enslaved people.
Enslaved people, and whether they are in fact people. Now, I know that's a crazy question. Y'all like, Mr. Johnson, you're just talking crazy. But there was an actual debate in 1787 that lasted 2 weeks as to whether an African American was a person. And you know what they decided? An African American is 3/5 of a person. So a white man is one person. An African American is 3/5 of a person. That is the 3/5 compromise. Representation in Congress, and that the number 3/5 refers to African Americans who are enslaved. They are less than one person.
So the next part, I want to set up the Federalist Papers. I want to introduce James Madison and Alexander Hamilton. I'm going to skip the part where I start singing from the musical Hamilton and make a fool of myself. But come to my class and you'll see wacky stuff like that.
That's everything you need to know on one page. Let's go into it a little bit deeper.
So over the weekend, I was talking to my mom, and I related this story that I thought was really interesting, that a student asked me if a 40 was a good test score. And I told her, generally, you want a 70. And I said it, and I immediately realized that I made a mistake. I have low expectations of my students if 70 is okay. 70 is not okay. You should be getting 100. So my theme for this 9 weeks is higher expectations, and I'm just talking about that for a little bit.
The great thing about it, Mr. Johnson, is if the expectation was at 70%, 70% means that they're average. I don't think your kiddos are average. I think they're above average.
Absolutely. They're way above average.
And so I think that they're above average. I definitely think that you are above average, and your assessment score shows that they are above average. So they shouldn't be getting 70s on anything.
100%. That's our new goal.
I love it.
All right, so we are fixing to get into the Great Compromise. Let me see your journals real quick. Can y'all hold up your journal?
So a major thing in asynchronous learning is I can't tell if the students are writing their notes. I like to have journal checks throughout the class and make sure that students at home, students in class are taking notes the way they should be.
All right, so the Great Compromise / the Connecticut Compromise. You connect, I cut. And so here's the question. Are people equal or are states equal? Who has the power in our country? Now, y'all probably already know, because I've been talking about it forever. But put it in the chat. Those of y'all who ain't answering, let me ask you a follow-up question. Are you a person? If
Yes.
the answer is yes, do you want power?
Yes.
Yes.
Then you think that the people should have the power. Because you are a person and you want power. Is that correct?
Yes.
Thank you, Dr. Harris. I agree. The Constitution agrees. The first 3 words of the Constitution are we the people. Not we the states, we the people. And so they argue who should have the power. Virginia, which is a big state with 1.4 million people, says that the people should have the power. So we're going to put the word population. Which one would be Virginia?
Would be 100 because Virginia has more people than hardly anybody.
So Virginia is a big state, and what that means, it has a bigger population. So what Virginia wants is for bigger states to have more power. Why does Virginia, a big state, want bigger states to have more power?
So that they can have more power.
But why are they justifying that they should have more power? I know Virginia wants more power, but why does, because ain't nobody going to just give Virginia power. What does Virginia have that makes Virginia think they should have more power?
More people.
More people. So the Virginia plan is that population determines the number of votes in Congress.
Mr. Johnson, real quick,
Yes,
if I can ask you a favor.
Yes,
for your
sir.
kiddos. When you have each state should have equal votes in Congress, can we also add equal vote / representation, because it uses the word representation on the assessment?
I absolutely love that. Now, New Jersey is a small state. Does New Jersey want Virginia to have more power?
Not very many students could answer it in the chat.
Here I got my 2 states. The 10, what am I going to name it? What's going to be the name of this 10 state? Let's say that each state gets 1 vote. Right now, which state is more powerful? New Jersey has 1 vote, Virginia has 1 vote. So which state's more powerful?
Neither.
Good job.
They're
Who said that?
equals because both of the states have one vote.
Well, who's going to like that? New Jersey or Virginia? Who's going to like being equal?
New Jersey.
Good. So New Jersey believes each state should have equal votes in Congress. Let's look at the Virginia plan a little closer. So let's say that 10 people equals one vote, which is real easy math here. I wish Ms. Bella was still in the room. 10 people equals one vote. So under this new plan, how many votes does New Jersey get? Nice. And how many votes does Virginia get?
10.
So now, how many New Jerseys do you need to outvote Virginia? You need a total of 11 New Jerseys or 10 more New Jerseys. How many colonies are there or how many states are there in 1787?
13.
13. So are there going to be enough small states to beat Virginia under the Virginia plan? No. So can we do the Virginia plan? Can we do the New Jersey plan? No. So what do we need to do? We need to compromise. What does the word compromise mean?
To come to an agreement.
Come to an agreement. All right? It means agree. The great agreement, the great time when the big states and the small states come together to agree. And do you remember what they're going to agree on? I've already taught you this.
That they're all going to have 2 legislators.
That they are all going to have 2 legislators. And what is our academic word for 2 legislators?
Bicameral.
Bicameral. So we're going to repeat after me again. Bicameral.
Here I have the kids say the word in funny voices like bicameral or bicameral, just to make it fun.
And what does bicameral mean? 2. So how many legislators are we going to? So if we're going to have 2 legislators, which plan are we going to do?
A great compromise.
How many plans are there? Oh my God, what's the compromise? What's the compromise? Let me ask you this. Are they going to do the Virginia plan? I hear yes in my classroom. Are they going to do the New Jersey plan? What a great compromise. Everybody wins. I'm not joking. It is a great compromise. Everybody wins. We're going to have 2 legislators. They're going to have names. The House of Representatives. On which plan? Well, you don't know, so I'll teach you. It's going to be based on the Virginia plan. And that means that how do we determine who has how many votes? What is most important in the House of Representatives?
The number of people.
Cool. And we're going to have another legislator, a whole other legislator, a new house. This one is going to be called the Senate. And the Senate is going to be based on which plan? The New Jersey plan. And in the Senate, all the states are going to be equal.
Equal.
Beautiful.
So this would have been a perfect point to talk about how many seats were in the House of Representatives and how many seats were in the Senate, and talk about the power between the 2 and how they work together. I didn't do it in this class. I'll do it in the next one, but if you're going to do it, this is a great spot.
So let me real quick pause out of my history lesson, go into 2020, and talk about what's about to happen in 2020. There is something called a census. And what this census does is it counts every human being in the United States. And they do it every 10 years. It is about to stop this week. Somebody might have knocked on your family's door and asked how many people live there. Here's my question. When they do the census, are they finding out who has power in the House of Representatives or power in the Senate? I want to see either House of Representatives or Senate in the chat. When they count every human being in America, are they trying to find out who has power in the Senate? And I'm getting so many right answers, and I know it's a long word to type. I believe that all of you are writing House of Representatives. Here is my plea. Fill out the census before it is too late. Go to census.gov because each of you counts for votes for Texas, which means that Texas will have more power because there's more people in it. Is Texas a big state or a small state? We're a big state. That means that we like which plan? All right, 3/5 compromise. We already talked about it. According to James Madison, the father of the Constitution, what group of people is less than one man?
Enslaved Africans.
The enslaved Africans. Now, based on the Great Compromise, which state wants to have more people counted?
Virginia.
Virginia. Is it in the New England, middle, or southern region of the United States? Southern. If you are in the southern region of the United States, do you have a large slave population?
Yes.
Yes, you do. So, do you want your slaves to count for more representation in Congress? Yes, because more representation equals more power. So the purpose of the 3/5 compromise is to determine if slaves count as people in representation in Congress. And specifically, when we talk about Congress, are we talking about the Senate or the House of Representatives?
The House of Representatives.
Good, because the House of Representatives is based on population. If you are a state with a lot of slaves, do you want your slaves to be people?
Yes.
I heard yes, and it is correct. Why do the slave owners, the ones who keep these human beings from freedom, want them to be people? Good. Harmony got it, but nobody could hear her. But that's okay, because I'm in a hurry. The South thinks that enslaved people, enslaved Africans, should be counted as people. And then underneath, we're going to write more people equals more representation or votes. So that means that Virginia, not only because it has more white people than everybody else, it's also got more enslaved Africans than everybody else. So if we let, or if we say, or if the South gets its way, Virginia is going to have even more power because it's going to be a bigger population.
Thinking back on it, I think this piece would have been better under the Great Compromise, but it works in the 3/5 compromise, so it's up to you how you want to do it.
Now, if we look at our map of our 13 colonies, and I know you're copying down this notes and you're going to get really mad at me, of our 13 states that existed way back in 1787, are there more big states in the South or more small states in the South?
Big.
The big states are all in the South. Where are all of my small states?
New England.
In the middle and the north in New England, right? So I've got Vermont, New Hampshire, Massachusetts, Rhode Island, Connecticut, New Jersey, Delaware. Those are my small states. They're all in the north. Do they want enslaved Africans to be counted as people?
No.
No, they don't. So if enslaved Africans are not people, what are they? Okay, so something that you own that is not a human being is called your, starts with the P.
Property.
Now the purpose of the 3/5 compromise is 100% about representation in Congress. That's what it's about. But I want to put out one other thing about property versus people. Can you tax a human being? Can you put a tax on a human being? I see Vanity saying no, and I like it, and I'm going to just move on with it for time. You can't tax people. People are free. Can you tax property? 100% you can tax property. So the North is saying enslaved Africans are property. South, you got to pay taxes on that. So that's part of this whole thing, right? So in the 3/5 compromise, can we tell that the northern United States and the southern United States are going to start feeling tension? What's the tension over? Slavery. Enslaved Africans. Thank you for saying that, Jacob. Here's the 3/5 compromise. A slave counts as 3/5 of a man in determining or figuring out representation in the House of Representatives. I'm going to put Congress. It's going to save you words, and we don't need to get bogged down. These are our notes. Y'all did phenomenal. We have high expectations, starting with our exit. Our exit ticket is going to Rock. There are 3 questions. Why did the delegates meet for the Constitutional Convention of 1787? What was the result of the Great Compromise? And what issue were the founders trying to solve with the 3/5 compromise?
All right, so that's the class. Exit tickets came back. We were at 89%. We had some confusion about what the goal of the Constitutional Convention was, but other than that, it was really good. So thank you all for watching. Sorry it's so long. Try to keep it short.